So we're going to create a new object here, and we're going to try to stay focused on thinking about sub-objects when we create this. So I've drawn a line, but as a profile that I'm going to use, and I'm going to do something similar, I'm going to take this line, I'm going to lathe this line. So I'm going to take open up the modifier list and choose lathe, and then I get a lathe. That's not quite what I was hoping for, so I'm going to change the direction here, X, Y, Z. Well, X is the best of those, and aligning to min, center, or max isn't really giving me what I want either. So what I'm going to do is that lathe has a sub-object, so I'm going to open it up. I'm going to click on axis. Now I can move that axis down, and I can position that to where about where it should be. So what I'm going to do is create a little dish here, I guess. I'm going to choose that weld core option as well. And 32 segments is probably fine. 32, yeah, let's do 32. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this thing and turn it into a wheel. So I'm simply going to do another lathe. And once that's finished, and I kind of feel like, wow, how did 3D Studio know that I want my tire to be black? Lucky guess. But it's actually not true. You see the inside there is red. This is that whole normals issue. The issue of what side is the side facing outwards and what side is the side facing inwards. You should always be suspicious if 3D Studio makes some geometry for you that is black. That's usually not, it usually indicates that you're having some kind of a problem with your normals. So in the lathe parameters, you see flip normals, and I have red tire, which is, again, probably not right, but at the very least I know that the normals are pointing the right direction now. Alright, and I actually see that I'm having a problem with that weld core here. It's actually welding the two sides, it looks like, so I'm going to uncheck that. That's okay, because we're going to do this a little bit different anyway. I want to punch a few holes in it. And what I could do is take that rim, and you see I don't have, I'm going to take some of these faces out here, but unfortunately I don't have access to those faces as it stands. I have to do one of those things that we talked about before, which is convert it to an editable poly, or go in and add an edit poly modifier to it. And that's generally, for me, that's a preferred way. I like to keep a stack around as long as I can. If I ever want to go back to that original line, the original lathe, and edit any of the parameters, I only could potentially lose any of the poly edits, but at the very least I wouldn't, have lost everything. Alright, so what I'm going to do is grab some of the faces of this thing, and then I can say, oh, okay, I'll take these faces here. Oops. Select instead of select and move, and let's say I take some of these faces here and here, and then I can just delete them. So I can start punching out little bits, and now ordinarily I would sort of have to go through and say, okay, well, get this one and punch those ones out too, but I don't want to do that primarily because why bother? The whole point of computers is so you can do as little work possible, right? So why not do it just one time and then duplicate that result? If you're modeling geometry, you often only model one side and mirror the other side. Why build both sides when you can just build one and mirror it? The same thing goes for radial types of geometry. And work on just one section of it, take that section and duplicate it around and connect it all together. So what I'll do is I can just take that edit poly, delete it, and add another edit poly on, which gets me back to where I was before, and I'm going to take out whatever section of the pie I think I can duplicate and recreate that whole thing. So I have 32 sections, I think is what I made it at. Let's double check that. Lathe, 32, yeah, 32 segments. That means that if I wanted 8 cutouts, I would need 4 segments for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I could have a cutout that goes in the middle too. That would work out great. So I'm going to keep 4 little sections of this cheesecake here. 4 little sections of pie. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to grab just those sections there, and I'll delete that. And it looks like probably have a couple of stragglers here, so I'm going to grab those, delete those. I'm going to grab this, delete that, and I just want to leave 4 sections. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that's where I can use potentially the the fence, and then change it to crossing. That way I have to see 1, 2. What did I say? 1, 2, 3, 4. That way I have to completely encompass the geometry in order to grab it. I didn't quite encompass that, I guess. So I'm going to hold down Control and just pick these stragglers here. It's fine. And then delete. Now what I can do is, maybe what I'll do is I'll add another edit poly on the top of this, edit poly. That way I can keep any modifications sort of separate from each other. So if I don't like the result of this edit poly, I can go back without destroying whatever I've done to this edit poly. And I can even take this and rename it and say, deleted sections, and then this one I'll say, I could rename it and call this punched hole, punched hole. And then I can grab some more faces out of here and say, okay, and then I delete that out and say, well, do I like that? I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell if I like that, because I'm only working on one little section of pie at a time. So I don't know if I'm going to want to work that way. What I think I'd rather do is take this section, duplicate it already, instance it, and that way I can see exactly what I'm doing. That way I can see what it looks like as a whole.